Well, it's true that apparently they look very different. But I think, no, I mean, I'm the only one that thinks that so I'm trying to convince probably also myself, but it's because it happened often that they ask me why it's so different from the other. But I will try to say why from my point of view. First of all, I was a painter before to be a director. So when I decided to make Gomorrah, it apparently was a realistic movie. But for me, it was sometimes science fiction or sometimes also dark fairy tales. If you think in Gomorrah, the position of the kids and the way how the violence is, enter in the life of these kids, that sometimes they follow their desire, like in Tale of Tales, and they don't know the consequence, And so the language of Gomorrah was completely different from this because it was a language that more close to documentary. Because I wanted to give to the audience the feeling to be inside of that world. I didn't want that the audience feel like the construction around. In Tale of Tales, it was the opposite, my approach, because I wanted to give to the audience, in a way, I wanted that the audience see this movie and that the image has to be believable, but also a sort of homage to the beginning of the cinema, to the silent movie, So it was important also that you can feel something also connected to the theater, and or to the Méliès movie of, the sea monster under the sea, but it's like an old movie, a silent movie, and to give a sort of different surprise to the audience, But it's both are visionary in a way, and both Gomorrah and Tale of Tales, my approach, I decided to make this movie because there was possibility to create a figurative world and visionary, and Tale of Tales also it's a movie that starts from a book of many stories, like Gomorrah, and I had to choose 3. And it was very frustrating sometimes because, there were other. The point of view of a woman in 3 different ages. Yeah. That was the idea at the end. But there were also other stories that we made a script that were very, very interesting. But at the end, we decided to make these 3 stories because together there were 3 different ages, and 3 different themes. Basile talks about, the fairy tales, talks about archetype, human archetypes, so are always modern. And so Basile in the 17th century talks about lifting, about aesthetic surgery, about, many themes that are so modern. So my approach was there was not different on making this movie and Gomorrah. My approach, it's very human. It's important for me to create a relationship with the character, to understand the character, and to follow his journey beside him. That's my approach. So the difference probably is that this movie starts from magic tales. So I tried to bring this story magic in a dimension of realism. Yes, a little bit. Mm-hmm. We take out something because it's when you read something, it works. Mm-hmm. Then when you have to make an adaptation for a movie, maybe can be not believable. in a way. So we take out something. It's something that. So we didn't betray the soul of Basile, but we take some changement. Well, because Basile wrote this story in the 17th century, but at that time there was not the literature for kids. So there was story for entertainment. And of course the audience was adults and kids, but the base, this story comes from medieval period. So are very violent and very dark, so it's not something that I wanted to add on, but it was something that was inside of this story, because this story talks in a very ironic, sometimes comic way and tragic way about the violence of the world where they live. So it's the 17th century, so it's the period of Shakespeare. So
we've had the Disney treatment on all of them. We now sort of see fairy tales.
It's the opposite of it's the
really
opposite of with Disney, of course. And Italo Calvino used to say that Basile was a sort of Napolitan Shakespearean. With this story, was very remind him a sort of dreams, the form dreams of Napolitan Shakespeare or something like that. So there was a connection.